Okay, we have a new leader here in Alberta. Yesterday was the Alberta election, and Jason Kenney won the election. Okay, so now he is going to be the Premier of Alberta. The Premier of Alberta. Okay, in Canada, the leaders of the provinces are called premiers. Okay, not the Prime Minister, right? Justin Trudeau is the Prime Minister of all of Canada, right? But each province has a leader, and that leader is called the Premier. Right now, in the U.S., okay, each state has a leader, and that is called the governor. Okay, so in the U.S., they have governors. In Canada, we have premiers. Okay, so Jason Kenney is the leader of the UCP party. The UCP party, that means the United Conservative Party. Okay, that's the name of his party, and they won a majority government. Okay, so yesterday, his party won the most votes. That's called a majority government, when most of the people vote for you. Okay, here is the province of Alberta. So these things are called ridings. Okay, each of these little areas is a riding. Okay, so that's just how Alberta politics, well, actually, that's how Canadian politics works. Okay, Canada is divided into a lot of little places called ridings. Okay, so the UCP won 63 ridings, and the NDP won 24 ridings. Okay, now these are the only two parties that won anything. Okay, there are other parties, but they didn't win any ridings. Okay, so UCP won 63 and the NDP won 24. So that means Jason Kenney will have a lot of power because his party won a very strong majority government. Okay, now this wasn't surprising. Nobody was surprised by this result because Alberta has always been a very conservative place. It's the most conservative province in all of Canada. Okay, actually, usually the prairies, these three provinces here, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba, are called the prairie provinces. Usually those are pretty conservative places. You know, that's the most conservative part of Canada. Okay, and actually Ontario has a conservative premier too. His name is Doug Ford. Okay, so all of those provinces have conservative premiers, right? Which might be a problem for Justin Trudeau in the future because a lot of Canada now is pretty conservative. Okay, so it wasn't a surprise to anyone that Jason Kenney won. Oh hey, it's time for you to subscribe to my channel right down there and smash that like button down there as well. Okay, so I just want to tell you a little bit about his platform. Do you know what this means? A platform is a political party's ideas, what they want to do for the province. Okay, so I just want to tell you some of the things he wants to do for Alberta. Okay, the first one is he wants to get rid of the carbon tax. The carbon tax. Justin Trudeau wants to force companies in Canada who create pollution. He wants them to pay a tax called the carbon tax. Okay, and Jason Kenney says, no, that's not a good idea. We shouldn't be punishing companies for that. Okay, so that's his idea, to get rid of the carbon tax that Justin Trudeau wants to make for all of Canada. Okay, so he wants to get rid of that. Now, there's something in Canada called equalization. Have you ever heard of that? Equalization. Well, basically that means in Canada that rich provinces have to give money to poor provinces. Right? So if one province is rich and another province is poor, then that province has to give money to the other province. Now, Alberta is the richest province in Canada. Alberta has always been the richest province. So, people in Alberta don't like giving money to other provinces. And he says he's going to do something about that so that Alberta stops, having to give so much money to other provinces. Okay, now the next one is pipelines. Okay, he wants to build pipelines. What is a pipeline? Well, this is a pipeline here. A pipeline for transporting oil. Okay, Alberta is an oil province. Okay, that's what Alberta is known for. A lot of oil. Alberta has a lot of oil in the ground. Okay, and there are a lot of big companies here in Alberta. Okay, this is a picture of Calgary, downtown Calgary. Okay, a lot of these tall buildings here are oil company buildings. So oil is a very important part of the Alberta economy and a very important part of Canada's economy, right? So I want to tell you about a problem. Take a look at this map, okay? See where Alberta is? Alberta is in that sort of bluish green color there. Now, how can Alberta oil be, how can Alberta sell its oil to the world? How can they get their oil to the world? They don't have any ocean. Usually oil is transported on huge ships called oil tankers. Okay, and these oil tankers carry oil, over to China or other countries, right? So Alberta is landlocked. Landlocked means it doesn't have any ocean. It's all just land. So to get their oil to, other countries in the world, they have to get their oil to Vancouver, where all the big ships are, or over here so that they can sell the oil this way. Okay, now the problem is that BC, the province over there where Vancouver is, okay, BC says we don't want pipelines in our province. We're not going to let you build a pipeline here to sell your oil over to China. We're not going to let you do that. And Quebec says the same thing. They say we can't, we're not going to let you build a pipeline through Quebec to sell your oil over here. And people in Alberta don't like that. We don't like that because Alberta is giving money to Quebec. Quebec is a poor province and Alberta is a rich province. So people in Alberta say, wait a minute, we're giving you money and you're not even helping us by letting us build a pipeline. Why should we give you money every year? A lot of money, not just a little bit of money. We're talking billions of dollars, okay? Why should we give you money if you're not even going to help us, okay? So people in Alberta are very angry at Quebec and at BC because they want the pipelines, but those provinces are not letting them build the pipelines, okay? So Jason Kenney said, we're going to find a way to build pipelines. One pipe over there and one pipe over there to sell Alberta oil. Okay, so these were some of the things he talked about. They talk about other things, healthcare, education, all of that. But these three things have to do with the Alberta economy, right? And right now, the Alberta economy has been very bad for a few years. So the economy was one of the biggest things in this election. That's why he won such a strong majority government. Now, you might be wondering, who did you vote for, Mark? Who did you vote for? Well, I'll tell you. I contributed to the voter apathy statistic. I contributed to the voter apathy statistic. Okay, that means I didn't vote. Okay, so if anyone ever asks you, who did you vote for? And if you didn't vote, you can say this: I contributed to the voter apathy statistic. Okay, every election, there are people who vote. Okay, those people are called the voter turnout. The voter turnout. So yesterday, there was a very strong voter turnout, 70%, which is very strong. Usually it's maybe like 50 or 60%, but 70% was a good number. That means a lot of people in Alberta were pretty angry. They wanted to vote. Okay, and the voter apathy, is the people who don't vote. And now, not everybody can vote. Children can't vote, right? If you have a baby, your baby can't vote. Tourists can't vote in the election. Although it would be funny to see like a group of Japanese tourists They come to Alberta to do some sightseeing, and if they could vote for our leaders, that'd be kind of funny, but they can't vote. You have to be more than 18 years old, and you have to live here in Alberta. Okay, so I could have voted, but I didn't. I was a voter apathy, right? I contributed to the voter apathy statistic, okay? Now, I watched these leaders debate, okay? Really, there were only two parties that could have won, right? She is the leader right now. Her name is Rachel Notley. Okay, so she lost yesterday. She has been the Premier of Alberta for the last 4 or 5 years. And Jason Kenney, the leader of the UCP party, it was only those two parties, really. These other guys, I mean, he didn't win anything. He's with the Liberal Party, and he didn't do very well either. So really, it was between Rachel Notley and Jason Kenney, and she lost. So Kenney will be the next leader of Alberta for the next few years. Now, why didn't I vote? Well, to be honest, I watched this debate. I watched them talk, and I didn't like any of them. I wasn't happy with anything they said. I mean, maybe they said a few things that I liked, but I didn't really like these people. Okay, now, there was an allegation in the past few weeks. There's been an allegation that Jason Kenney cheated. Not in this election, but in the election of his own party, right? When they were choosing the leader of the UCP party, there was an allegation that he cheated. Did he cheat? I have no idea. Politicians love to cheat, right? I know politicians love to cheat. They're very good at cheating. So I don't know. Did he cheat or did he not cheat? Back when they picked the leader of the UCP party a few years ago, people were saying that he cheated. I don't know. I don't know if he's a good guy or if he's a bad guy. I don't know if any of these people are good or bad. So I didn't vote. I thought, you know what? I don't like what they're saying. I don't like any of these people. So I didn't vote. I didn't vote. Now, actually, the word apathy means you don't care. You don't care. Then you could say, I'm apathetic. I don't care. But that's not true. I do care. I actually do care about politics. I care about our leaders. But, they were just, it seemed like if I would vote, it felt like I would be voting for the lesser of two evils. The lesser of two evils. Do you know what this means? This means if you have two choices and both choices are bad, but you say, well, I'm going to vote for this one because this person is less bad than that person. I don't really like, being in this position to vote for the lesser of two evils. I would rather vote for someone instead of against someone. I think yesterday, a lot of people voted against Rachel Notley just because the Alberta economy is so bad. I think a lot of people were thinking, I just want to vote for Jason Kenney just so we can get rid of her. I think a lot of people were thinking that, okay? So maybe people didn't like Jason Kenney, but they voted for him because they voted for the lesser of two evils. I don't really like being in this position. Like I said, I would rather vote for something, not against something. So, these were the leaders. Like I said, I didn't like any of them, but I'm sure they're all nice people. They're probably nice people. None of them want to kill me, which I'm very thankful for. I don't think any of the politicians in Canada want to kill me, so I'm very thankful for that. In other countries, sometimes politicians want to kill their own people. Now, if I had voted yesterday, if I had decided to vote in the election, I probably would have voted for Jason Kenney. If I was forced to do that, because the Canadian dollar is very low these days. The Canadian dollar is very weak. And I don't like that. It's bad for me because I want to buy a new camera. And cameras are not made in Canada, right? Most cameras are made in Japan. And Japan doesn't care what the Canadian dollar is, right? If the Canadian dollar is weak, that just means we have to pay more for their cameras, right? Take a look at this chart, okay? This shows the value of the Canadian dollar against the US dollar for 10 years. Okay, so this is a 10-year chart. Look how high the Canadian dollar was like 8 years ago. 7, 8, 9 years ago, it was very high. Actually, it was higher than the American dollar for, little bits of time. Okay. So if I would buy a camera back then, it would be cheap, right? But if I buy a camera over here, it's going to be a lot more expensive for me. Now look at these two leaders, okay? Rachel Notley and Justin Trudeau. They have been the leaders here in Canada for this period here, okay, the past few years. So the Canadian dollar has been very low. Now, is it their fault? Well, I think partly. I think it's partly their fault. Maybe not totally their fault, but I think they certainly helped to make the Canadian dollar pretty low, okay? So, it was so high then, and it's low now. Now, what does that mean for the price of a camera? Okay, that means if this camera here is $2,000 US, that means it's going to be 2,700 Canadian, about 2,700 Canadian. So $700, that's a pretty big difference, right? Now, you might think, well, 700 it's not that much. It's not that much. Well, that's just for the camera body. That's just for a camera body. That's not for any lenses. Okay, so cameras are expensive. If your hobby is photography, you can easily spend thousands of dollars on camera gear, lenses, all sorts of things. So let's say, it's 6,000. If I want to spend 6,000 US on a new camera, well, then that's $8,000 Canadian, right? So that's $2,000, right? If the Canadian dollar was the same value as the US dollar, then I would save $2,000. So that's a lot of money, when we're talking about buying a new camera, lenses, maybe a flash or just other things like that. It's expensive. And not only, for buying a camera, but it's also for everything else. If I want to travel to another country, that means I'm having to spend so much more money than if the Canadian dollar were a little bit higher. It would save me money if the Canadian dollar goes up. So that's probably why I would have voted for Jason Kenney, just because I want a camera. I just want a camera. So, that would be the only thing in my vote, but I didn't vote. So, I don't know. I want to ask you, is it better to vote for the lesser of two evils or not vote at all? What do you think I should have done? Should I have voted for Jason Kenney, or should I just not vote at all? What do you think is the right thing to do in this situation? To vote for the lesser of two evils or to not vote at all? Let me know your opinion down there in the comments, and I'll see you over in the next episode of Mad English TV. Take care.